The cafeteria erupted in laughter when the football bounced off a tray and rolled to his feet. "Hey, lunchman," the coach smirked. "Why don't you show us how real men throw a ball?" Everyone turned, expecting the quiet school cook to shrink back like he always did. But he didn't. Not this time. He picked up the ball, calm, silent, and launched it across the field with a spiral so sharp it could have sliced wind. A stunned silence followed. Then a suited man from the bleachers leaned in and said, "Get his name. Now, before we dive in, drop a comment with where you're watching from, and don't forget to hit subscribe for more videos like this." Let's begin. My name is Daniel Thatcher, 38. Single dad. Lunchroom worker. To most people, I was invisible. The kids call me Tater Dan behind my back. Some of them were bold enough to say it to my face. Didn't matter. All I cared about was keeping food on the table for my daughter Emily, age 7, and making sure I was home before dark to help her with math and scare away the nightmares. I kept my head down, wore the hairnet, served the slop, didn't talk much, didn't have to, until Coach Halstead decided to make me a joke. It started when the football team stormed the cafeteria during lunch hour like they always did, shoulder pads clanking, testosterone flying. One of them overshot a pass, and the ball crashed onto the floor next to my station. I picked it up. "Don't hurt yourself, lunch guy," someone chuckled. Then Coach Halstead's voice cut through the noise. "Hey, Dan, why don't you throw it back? Show these boys how a real man throws." He grinned like he expected me to fumble, like he wanted to see me trip over my own feet. I should have walked away, but something in me, some old buried thing, snapped. I looked him dead in the eye, rolled the ball in my hands. Then, with a breath I hadn't taken in years, I pulled back and let it fly. The spiral was perfect, tight, fast, smooth. It sliced the air like it remembered who I was before I became invisible. Everyone went quiet. You could hear forks dropping on plastic trays. The ball struck a folded metal chair 40 yards away and knocked it flat on its back. One of the boys, his mouth open, murmured, "Dom." I felt the air shift. Eyes that used to overlook me now followed me as I walked back behind the counter. But it wasn't the kids I noticed. It was the man sitting with Principal Hayes at the back, clean suit, aviator sunglasses, a clipboard in his lap. He stood up, walked toward me, extended a hand. "Jordan Vega, regional scout, Bismarck Bulldogs." He paused. "You ever play college ball?" I stared at his hand, heart pounding. I hadn't heard that question in nearly 20 years. I didn't answer. I just glanced over his shoulder at Coach Halstead, and for the first time in years, he wasn't smiling. "Notre Dame." Jordan Vega raised an eyebrow. "You sure about that?" I didn't reply. He studied me, really studied me, like he was trying to rewind time and place me in some old footage. After a moment, he tucked his clipboard under one arm and nodded. "We need to talk." But I wasn't ready. Not yet. Not here. Not with cafeteria trays clattering and kids pretending not to stare. I gave him a polite nod, took off my apron, and slipped outside into the cold November air. The sky was overcast, but I could still feel the heat in my palms from that throw. I hadn't thrown a football like that in almost 2 decades. Back at the house that night, I microwaved mac and cheese for Emily and let her color on the kitchen counter while I stared at my old duffel bag in the hall closet. Buried beneath winter coats and an old crib mattress was a photo I hadn't looked at in years. Me, #12, standing in a gold helmet, mid-throw on a rain-soaked field. Back before I tore my ACL. Back before the war. Back before the mortgage. Back before everything. Emily looked up at me from her macaroni volcano. "Daddy, did you really throw the ball like a superhero today?" I smiled. "Something like that, baby." She grinned and went back to coloring. The next morning, the parking lot was already full when I pulled up to school. But not with parents. Not with kids. There were news vans, tripods, boom mics, reporters in heavy coats, rehearsing live intros beside the cafeteria doors. And Jordan Vega again, this time in a jacket embroidered with the Bulldogs logo, waiting by the gym. "Guess where it got out?" I muttered. He laughed. "Guess so. The docuseries crew I mentioned. They saw the footage a student took on their phone and said, 'That's our guy. They're filming regional stories for the network this week. You're a perfect feature.'" "I'm just a school cook," I said, trying to wave him off. "No," he said firmly. "You were buried. Now we're just brushing the dust off." Coach Halstead did not like that. He stormed into the gym as the crew was setting up cameras and scoffed, Are you serious with this sideshow? Jordan didn't blink. Got league approval. Principal's blessing, too. I'm the athletics head on this campus. You don't get a waltz in here and turn my gym into ESPN. Jordan stepped forward, calm but firm. And you don't get to mock men in approving they're more than their job titles. You brought this attention, coach. We're just filming it. Halstead's nostrils flared. He turned to me, voice sharp. Enjoy your 15 minutes, Thatcher. Just remember, nobody builds a future off one lucky throw. But it wasn't luck. And deep down, he knew it. They filmed me doing regular shifts. Hairnet and gloves. Serving kids chicken patties and mashed potatoes. They even caught me slipping extra apple slices into a girl's tray when she looked too small for her age. You always do that? The cameraman asked. I shrugged. Some kids come hungry. I notice. The moment went viral later. Turns out kindness sells just as much as touchdowns. But while the world watched with curiosity, Halstead plotted. He started making my life difficult, subtle, but constant. Changing schedules last minute. Accidentally reassigning me to janitorial duty during tryout breaks. One morning I arrived to find my locker trashed, photos ripped, uniform stained. But I didn't crack. Because Emily was watching. Because they were watching. And because I hadn't waited 20 years to throw it all away. One afternoon, while scrubbing a mystery spill off the gym floor, a boy named Jalen came over. He was the backup quarterback. Good kid. Quiet. Observant. You played for real, didn't you? He asked softly. I nodded. He hesitated, then whispered, Coach won't let me throw deep. Says I don't have the arm. I wiped my hands on a towel and smiled. Want to find out if he's wrong. That night, we stayed late. Me, Jalen, a couple cones, one football, no cameras, no crew, no judgment. And when he nailed a 40-yard post route to perfection, his face lit up like a kid seeing snow for the first time. Coach will kill me if he finds out. He laughed breathlessly. Then let him, I said. Better to know what you're capable of than live under someone else's ceiling. The next morning, Halstead saw me walking Emily to class and sneered. Still pretending you matter around here? I turned, looked him dead in the eye. I'm not pretending anymore, Coach. Then I handed Emily her lunchbox, kissed her forehead, and walked toward the gym, where Jordan waited with a clipboard, and the documentary team was already rolling. Coach Halstead was waiting for me in the gym, arms crossed, whistle tight in his grip, veins visible through the red flush on his neck. Jordan Vega was setting up a radar gun, talking to one of the production assistants. Behind him, the crew was adjusting lights, running cables, and taping marks on the hardwood. The bleachers had more people today. Teachers, some curious parents, and students who'd heard something exciting was happening during lunch hour. But all I could see was Halstead. He was seething. You're not getting my gym, he barked. Jordan didn't flinch. We've already cleared it with the school board, Coach. This is a distraction, Halstead snapped. This is my program. My athletes. We don't need a washed-up has been stealing the spotlight because he got lucky with a cafeteria stunt. Jordan turned to me calmly. Let's let the tape speak. The setup was simple. Radar gun, cones, net targets at varied distances. I stretched my shoulders, rolled my wrists, and walked to the 50-yard line. As I reached for the football, Halstead stepped forward and said loud enough for the room to hear, Let's make this interesting. Jordan raised an eyebrow. Go on. I'll throw to, Halstead said. Right here, right now, one-on-one. Accuracy, velocity, and footwork. You judge. Jordan paused, clearly unimpressed. You want to challenge the guy you mocked yesterday? Halstead smirked. I want to remind everyone that hype fades. Real players don't work food lines. The crowd murmured. A few students leaned forward. Someone whispered, He's going to embarrass him again. I looked at Halstead. This wasn't about football. This was about control. He'd ruled the halls of Stone Mill for over a decade with intimidation masked as discipline. But now someone he couldn't bully had taken the spotlight, and it scared him. I nodded. Let's throw. Halstead went first. His stance was clean, old school. He hit 2 of the short targets, one the mid-range. Missed the deep one. Velocity, 49 miles per hour. Crowd clapped. Respectable enough. Then it was my turn. I adjusted my footing, exhaled, and let muscle memory take over. I nailed every single target. The radar gun beeped. 62 miles per hour, Jordan called out. Dead spiral. Tight release. Gasps. One of the students jumped up and shouted, "Let's go, lunch legend." The crowd laughed, this time with me, not at me. I turned toward Halstead. He was already walking away. But it wasn't over. Not for him. That night, I got a call from Principal Hayes. "Dan, Coach Halstead filed a complaint." I closed my eyes. "What kind of complaint?" "He claims you're violating district policy by engaging in athletics during work hours. Says you're using school property without clearance." I didn't speak. "I'm not acting on it," she added quickly. "Off the record." The man's threatened. "But just be careful. He's digging." I thanked her. Hung up. Sat in the silence. Emily walked in wearing my oversized hoodie and said, "Want to watch a movie, Daddy?" I nodded. "Yeah, kiddo. I really do." The next day, the documentary crew asked if they could follow me home after work. I hesitated, but Jordan pulled me aside. "Your story, Dan. It's not just about talent. It's about grit. You've got people rooting for you who don't even know your name yet." So I said yes. They filmed me picking Emily up, walking her through math problems, cooking dinner in a kitchen with flickering lights and chipped tiles. At one point, the cameraman whispered, "This ain't just football. This is survival." And I knew he was right. But the worst came 2 days later. Halstead didn't just try to sabotage me. He came after Emily. During gym class, he told her to show hustle like her old man, then forced her to run laps twice as long as the other kids. When she collapsed crying, clutching her side, the nurse called me. I found her in the clinic, sweat sticking her hair to her cheeks, eyes red from tears. Coach Halstead yelled. She whispered, said I was weak. Something inside me burned so hard I thought my chest would explode. That night, I didn't just pick up the football, I trained. I woke early, ran sprints before dawn, practiced throws into the park's empty soccer goal until my shoulder screamed. If Halstead wanted to break me, he'd have to bleed first. Friday afternoon, Jordan handed me a packet. Tryout schedule, travel information, and at the top, in bold, invitation to semi-pro league camp evaluation. "Still want it?" he asked. I looked at the form, at the dates, at the salary range. Then I looked down the hall, where Emily's laugh echoed from the art room. "Yeah," I said. "I want it." Jordan smiled. "Then let's get to work." Monday came with cold rain, the kind that made your knees hurt and the walls sweat. Emily tugged her hoodie tighter as I dropped her off at school. Her tiny hand gripped mine a little longer than usual. "You'll pick me up early today, right?" she asked. I nodded. Like always. She hesitated. Coach Halstead said something. My stomach dropped. What did he say? She looked away. That he knows you're pretending to be someone you're not, and that liars always lose. I crouched down and held her arms gently. "Listen to me, Em. People like him talk loud because they're afraid of being ignored. You hear me?" She nodded slowly, but she didn't smile. Neither did I. That afternoon, a manila envelope appeared in my locker. No note, just my name written in black Sharpie. Inside, photocopies, dozens of them, old military records, medical notes from my ACL tear, a scanned headline from 2006. Notre Dame quarterback quits after injury, turns down rehab contract. And the last page, circled in red, a discharge paper from the Army. Honorable, but with a handwritten annotation, psych. Evaluation recommended. I stared at it until the paper blurred. The ink bled into old scars I'd spent years hiding. Someone, Halstead, wanted me gone. Not just off the field. Gone. I took the papers home and stuffed them into the back of my bedroom closet. Didn't tell Emily. Didn't tell Jordan. But that night, as I stood outside under a flickering streetlight throwing tight spirals into an old tire swing, I made a decision. I wasn't going to run again. I'd run once, after the injury, the war, after losing Emily's mom in that delivery room. I buried my dreams because I thought fatherhood and ambition couldn't fit in the same chest. I was wrong. Emily didn't need a dad who survived. She needed a dad who fought. Tryouts were set for Saturday. Jordan had arranged for a mini scrimmage at Ridgeview Stadium. Closed to the public, but attended by real scouts from 6 different states. "You don't need to be perfect," he told me during warm-ups. "Just be unignorable." But while Jordan was building me up, Halstead was busy pulling strings. Late Friday night, I got an email from the school district. Subject: urgent employment notice. Body: due to ongoing concerns and pending review of extracurricular activities not listed in your employment contract, your position has been suspended until further notice. No pay, no benefits, No cafeteria job. Gone. Just like that. I didn't sleep that night. Emily found me on the porch, hands over my face. Did something happen? She asked. I didn't want to tell her. But I also didn't want to lie. They're taking away my job, sweetheart. She blinked. Because of the football? I nodded. She was quiet for a moment. Then she stepped forward, grabbed the bottom of her piggy bank from the kitchen counter, and dumped out the coins into my lap. Now you have money, she said proudly. I bit my lip, so hard it bled. Then I pulled her into my arms and whispered, "You're the only reason I'll never quit again." Saturday morning. I arrived at Ridgeview Stadium early. We're the only pair of cleats I owned. 10 years old, cracking at the sides. Emily sat in the stands with Jordan's assistant, clutching her stuffed bear. The air was sharp. My nerves were sharper. But when the whistle blew, I became someone else. Not Dan the lunch guy. Not Dan the dropout. Not Dan the single father. I was number 12 again. I read the defense. Called the snap. Moved like I'd never lost a step. 3 throws in. Spiral so tight they sang through the air. And the scouts were standing. On the 4th, I rolled out, dodged an oncoming linebacker, and tossed a 50-yard bomb right into the chest of a sprinting receiver. The stands exploded. One scout shouted, "Who is this guy?" Then I saw him. Coach Halstead. In the back row. Arms crossed. Watching. But this time, he wasn't smirking. This time he looked cornered. Jordan leaned over the railing, yelling, "Dan, one more." Deep left fade. I nodded. But just as I stepped back, my foot twisted. The turf had a divot. A planted sprinkler head, left exposed. My knee buckled. Pain shot through my leg like a lightning bolt. Gasps from the stands. Emily screamed, "Daddy." I hit the ground hard. Memories flashed like grenades in my mind. 2006. That same sharp crack. That same helpless, sickening moment when the crowd goes quiet and you can't feel your leg. The trainers rushed me. Scouts circled. Emily was sobbing in Jordan's assistant's arms. Halstead didn't move. He just watched. But I looked up at the sky and whispered, "Not this time." Then I stood, wobbling, barely balanced, but standing. And when Jordan offered to cancel the rest of the tryout, I shook my head. "No," I growled. "I've still got one throw left." The pain in my knee pulsed with every heartbeat, but I blocked it out. Across the field, the assistant coach held up a glove, signaling the route. Fade left. 40 yards. The scouts murmur behind Jordan, watching closely. My breathing slowed. One breath in, one breath out. I tuned out everything. Halstead's burning stare, Emily's anxious cries, the heat flaring up my thigh. All I could see was the route, the arc, the pocket in the corner of the end zone. Then, I dropped back 3 steps, planted, and launched. The ball left my hand with fire in its veins. A high spiral, perfectly timed. The receiver hit the corner cone, leaped, caught it midair, 2 feet down, touchdown. The crowd let out a collective breath. Even the scouts clapped, but I didn't celebrate. I just dropped to one knee, gritting my teeth against the pain, and looked up at the one face that mattered most. Emily. She was crying and clapping at the same time, hands shaking, bear crushed to her chest. I gave her a small nod. I kept my promise. I didn't run. The scouts were buzzing. One of them, a rep from Salt Fork Mustangs, approached Jordan and said, "We'll call him Monday." "That's a scholarship arm." "No doubt." Another asked if I had an agent. I laughed. "Halstead?" He vanished from the stands without a word. Later, while the stadium emptied out, Jordan walked beside me toward the tunnel. "You've got it, Dan. Not just talent, heart." Everyone here saw it. I didn't reply at first. I was thinking of the cafeteria, of Emily's bruises, of my name blacked out on the employment system, of Halstead's fake smiles. "You sure they'll look past the knee?" I asked quietly. "They didn't see a man limping," he replied. "They saw a man who stood up when it hurt." He paused, then added, "Some of them even asked if you consider coaching." I stopped in my tracks. "Coaching?" Jordan nodded. "You lifted every kid out there just by being you. People need that. Hell, the league needs that." I looked up at the sky, overcast, gray, and wide. For the first time in years, I felt like I belonged somewhere bigger than just surviving. But while my name rose, Halstead was digging himself deeper. The school board received 2 complaints about his treatment of students, one anonymous, the other from a brave mother whose son had been benched all season for questioning authority. The documentary crew edited a segment showing Halstead's comments, his dismissiveness, and his refusal to shake my hand after the tryout. The video went viral within 48 hours. From lunch tray to tryout. Racked up 3.6 million views on YouTube. My face, sweat-soaked, jaw clenched, hand raised after the final throw, became a thumbnail for redemption. People from all over started commenting. Reminds me of my dad. Proof that real talent doesn't quit. Hire this man to coach already. I got dozens of messages. Old teammates from college. Veterans from my platoon. A letter from a 12-year-old in Kansas. My mom works 2 jobs, and people call her dumb. I showed her your video. She cried and hugged me. She said thank you. But one message hit different. It was an email. From principal at stonemillschooldistrict.org. Subject. Status reinstated. Dan. After thorough review, we have reinstated your employment, effective immediately. Further, an internal investigation into Coach Halstead's conduct has been launched. We apologize for the disruption this has caused you and your family. Respectfully, Principal Regina Hayes. I printed the email, pinned it to the fridge. Emily squealed when she saw it. You got your job back. I smiled. Something even better might be coming, kiddo. She tilted her head. What's better than lunch lady meatloaf? I laughed. Football. That week, I went back to work, not to hide, but to show I wasn't ashamed of where I came from. Jordan came too, filming a final scene for the documentary. The kids lined up like fans now. Some asked for selfies. One kid handed me a crayon drawing of me holding a football with the words, "Real hero." Then, at exactly 1:17 p.m., just as I stepped outside to toss garbage into the dumpster, Coach Halstead walked up behind me. He looked smaller, not in size, in energy. He didn't speak right away, just stood there, hands shoved in his jacket pockets. Finally, he muttered, "You got what you wanted." I turned. "No, Coach. I got what I earned. There's a difference." He looked down. "You humiliated me." "No," I said calmly. "You did that yourself the day you made your ego more important than the kids you were supposed to lift." He blinked, then walked away. No more threats. No more smirks. Just silence. That night, I tucked Emily in early. She snuggled into her blanket and whispered, "You're my hero, Daddy." I kissed her forehead. "You're mine." And as she drifted to sleep, I opened an envelope I'd been carrying all day. Salt Fork Mustangs. Quarterback camp invite. Housing plus training contract. 6 months. Renewable. At the bottom, optional coaching apprenticeship available based on leadership potential. I stared at it until my eyes burned. Then I smiled. The first week at Salt Fork felt like a dream I hadn't dared to have in decades. Every morning, I woke up in a simple dorm room with a twin bed, cracked linoleum floor, and no sound but the whistle of wind across the field. And yet, I had never felt more alive. Each day was a whirlwind of drills, chalk talks, and mechanics. My arm held up. My knee protested, but never collapsed. But what really surprised me, how the younger players looked at me. Not with mockery, not with doubt, but with respect. At 38, I was the oldest guy on the roster by nearly 15 years. They called me Coach Dan, even before the staff officially gave me a clipboard. One night, a wide receiver named Kai, barely 20, sat next to me in the cafeteria and said, "My pops used to say, people who sacrifice don't brag. They carry it." He paused. "You carry it, man. I see it." I didn't respond right away, just stared down at my tray of grilled chicken and sweet potatoes. Then I said softly, "I used to carry shame. Now, I carry purpose." He nodded. "That's why people follow you." Word traveled fast. The video of me and Halstead now had over 6 million views. And one comment caught my eye. Username, Halstead Coach 13. Comment, "I judged you. You proved me wrong. Don't stop." I read it twice, then closed the browser. Some battles don't need responses. Back in town, Emily was thriving too. She started piano lessons through a scholarship one of the Mustangs donors offered. She FaceTimed me every night, filling the screen with her missing teeth, giggles, and the occasional spaghetti-stained t-shirt. "I told my teacher you're going to be famous," she said one night, beaming. "And that one day, you'll coach the whole world." I laughed. "Let's just start with coaching the red zone, baby." Then her expression changed. She leaned closer to the screen and whispered, "You're not going to disappear again, right?" That hit me harder than any linebacker ever could. "Never," I promised. "No matter how far I go, I'm always yours first." 2 weeks later, Jordan called with news. Coach opening back at Stone Mill, he said. District wants you. Not Halstead. I nearly dropped the phone. They're offering you the football program. Full control. Rebuild it how you want. Salary's not huge, but the influence? It's everything. I went silent. Part of me still burned with dreams of playing, even if it meant aging out in 2 seasons. But a deeper part? It remembered that cafeteria, that gym, that broken system still teaching kids they had to be loud to be powerful. Can I think on it? I asked. Jordan's voice softened. Of course. Just don't take too long. The kids need someone like you now, not later. That night, I walked the field alone under the lights. The turf smelled like sweat and iron. I threw passes into the dark, aimless, but smooth. And with every throw, a voice inside me kept asking the same thing. What's more heroic, finishing your dream, or handing the ball off so others can chase theirs? The next morning, I made my decision. I called Principal Hayes. Told you I wasn't pretending, I said. She laughed. We've cleared Halstead's desk. It's yours. I returned to Stone Mill on a gray Thursday morning. The school looked smaller now, but the weight of what I was walking into felt monumental. Emily clung to my arm on the way to the front office. You sure this is what you want to do, Daddy? She asked. I knelt beside her. You remember what you said? That I'd coach the whole world someday. She nodded. Well, I smiled. I'm starting with this town. I walked into the locker room and found it exactly how I remembered. Stale air, rusted lockers, cracked tile. Then I saw something taped to the whiteboard. A printout of the viral photo. Me mid-throw, ball leaving my hand, and a handwritten quote underneath. They thought he was just a lunch guy. Below it, not anymore. I stood there, speechless. Then from behind me, a familiar voice. You ready to lead? I turned. Jordan Vega stood in the doorway with a coffee and a knowing smile. Had to see it for myself, he said. The comeback king returning to his castle. I grinned. You're the reason I never stopped. No, he said. Your daughter is. I just lit the torch. She carried it. That afternoon, I walked onto the field as head coach of the Stonewall Titans. The same kids who once mocked me now stood in a half circle, pads on, helmets tucked under arms. I raised my whistle and spoke for the first time not as a cook, but as a man they would remember. You don't earn respect with trophies. You earn it with character. You show up. You fall. You rise. And if someone calls you a name, lunch boy, nobody, washed up, you smile and keep moving. I looked each of them in the eye, because no one writes your story but you. Now, let's write a better one. The first few weeks as head coach were chaos, but good chaos. Paperwork, practice plans, discipline issues, budget meetings. And yet, every step I took on that field felt like planting a flag on soil I had once been told didn't belong to me. I inherited a team that had won 3 games in 2 years. Half the seniors were already checked out. The quarterback barely knew how to read a blitz. Morale was dust. But I didn't yell, didn't threaten, didn't try to be Halstead. I just showed up. Every day. And so did they. One afternoon after practice, a freshman named Marcus stayed behind. Tall, lanky, didn't speak much. Always wore sleeves, even in the heat. He waited until everyone left, then walked over while I was locking up gear. My dad said you're just a cook who got lucky, he said. I smiled. Is that what you think? He shrugged. I don't know, but you throw like people who win. I handed him a ball. Then let's make you one of those people. That became our thing. Every Thursday, one-on-one drills after practice. No cameras, no applause, just building something no one could take from him. Off the field, life grew brighter. Emily started sleeping through the night again. Her nightmares had stopped. She made friends. Wrote an essay about her hero, titled, My Dad Used to Be a Lunchman. The school framed it and posted it near the front office. It made parents cry during pickup. Then came homecoming game week. We were 3-2, a winning record for the first time in 7 years. And our opponent? Redfield High, home of Halstead's new assistant gig. Rumor was he'd taken the job out of spite, swearing he'd shut that fairy tale down himself. I wasn't worried about the scoreboard. I was worried about how my boys would respond to pressure. They were still kids, still fragile beneath the pads. But the day before the game, they surprised me. They'd made their own shirts. On the front, Lunch Doesn't Quit. On the back, number 12, Coach Dan. Game day. The field lights burned like suns. The bleachers were packed. Local news vans lined the parking lot. Halstead stood on the opposite sideline, arms folded, face unreadable. I didn't look at him again. I kept my eyes on my team, on Marcus, on Jalen, on every boy who had ever been told they weren't enough. We led at halftime 14-10. Third quarter, we fell behind. But in the fourth, something shifted. A tackle, a fumble recovery, momentum, belief. Then, with 21 seconds left, we were down by 4. Ball on the 32. I looked at Jalen. You ready? I asked. He nodded. I drew up the final play. Not complicated. Just a crossing route to Marcus if the coverage broke. Simple. Clean. Faith-driven. The ball snapped. Pocket held. Jalen stepped up. And threw. Marcus caught it in stride. And ran. Touchdown. Game. The bleachers roared. Students stormed the field. And through it all, Halstead walked off without a word. His shadow behind me. Gone. That night, Emily and I sat on the tailgate of Jordan's truck under the stars, eating celebratory cheeseburgers and letting the noise of the world fade behind us. You know what I like best? She asked between bites. I smiled. The touchdown. She shook her head. When you hugged Marcus after he scored. He looked like he needed it. I looked down at my hands. Hands once calloused from cafeteria trays and now rough from footballs again. Yeah, I whispered. So did I. A week later, the superintendent announced a community award. The Heart of Stone Mill. Awarded to one individual each year who embodied resilience, leadership, and compassion. They gave it to me. I didn't say much during the ceremony. Just one line before I stepped off the stage. Turns out, being invisible taught me how to really see people. Today I still coach. Still live in the same little house. Still walk Emily to school. Still help out in the lunchroom once a month. Just because, and when new staff come in and ask, hey, what's the story with Coach Dan and that framed newspaper article? The answer's always the same. Oh, you haven't heard.